Hello, this is Gina, and I have a little live presentation tonight, which I think is working, but there's something going on over there. So I don't know if I'm live or not. So if anybody out there in the world could tell me if I'm live, that would be awesome, because I'm not really sure. Some things are going on. Little, symbols. Oh, Heather Miracle, please tell me I've done this right. Hello, y'all. Just give us a minute. Just give me a minute to make sure I got everything going on. Ah, okay, Heather's there. I feel good in the world when Heather is by my side. I feel good now. Hello, everybody. Hello. All right, so my name is Gina Burke, and I'm coming back for round two because you didn't kick me out after round one. I did a live a long time ago on pre-sales. It's back to school pre-sale season, so I hope everybody is doing well with that. But I am here tonight to talk about being organized and efficient, as if I have some intelligence in that area. But I volunteered. And the reason is because I felt organized at the time, and I'm not sure if I feel organized today. It's been a rough summer with kids home, so we're going to talk about how to do this with children. Also, if y'all just want to know what's really going on in my room, the Olympics are on the iPad right next to me, so I'm not gonna lie. I'm watching some Olympics too. So here we are. Here we go. We are going to talk about being organized, efficient in theory, and I'm going to tell you what my background is. So my background is actually engineering. I am an industrial engineer. My background is large industry engineering. And then I got into healthcare engineering, but my job was to make things move efficiently and quickly. So you take all the waste out and you just fill it with beneficial activity, right? Things that are going to make your business grow, things that are going to make you money. Don't waste stuff on the other time. Don't waste time on the other stuff. So that is my background. Lean Six Sigma, if that means anything to anybody. I have a black belt in that. So not karate, but in Six Sigma. So this is my background. And so I love that. And I love doing what I'm doing. And I need to put this on silent. So here we go. Doing a cookie business has been a lot of fun because I get to do that. And I enjoy the improving of it. So I am 2 years and change into the business. And what I used to think took forever 2 years ago is nothing now. So that's, for all you who are beginning, it gets a lot better. So today I just want to start off with some of that background and then talk about, I'm moving the wrong things around trying to get the comments. I will talk about like just some of my philosophies to start off with. And one of the things that I have found really important towards being organized and taking my business to a level where I'm efficient, I'm not wasting time, and I'm enjoying it more, is to take time. That's exactly it. So there's a saying that slow is smart and smart is fast. So sometimes you got to slow down to get smart, and being smart about what you're doing will help you move more efficiently. So slow is smart and smart is fast. So how are we going to, hello everybody, by the way, lots of names out there. Hello everybody. So here's a calendar, and y'all are going to laugh at me. We'll talk about electronic calendars, but I'm a nice, look at all the notes in there, old school, write it down kind of girl. And partly because here's the reason why I don't do a lot of things electronically. I'm going to go sideways on this one. I look at my phone a lot during the day. I look at this group far too much. Y'all are too entertaining. And I look at a lot of pictures of what I'm doing. I look back at messages. I'm answering messages. I don't want to be on the phone any more than I am. I don't want my children to see me on the phone any more than I am. So I actually do a lot of things on pen and pencil because I don't want to be looking at my phone as much. So there are probably faster ways out there to maybe do some things electronically. And if you are inclined towards the electronic and that is you, awesome. And I'll talk about a couple of things, but I am old school. So, but whatever way you do this, whether it's pen and paper or calendar, at the beginning of the year, I think it is wise to go through And you need to block off weeks where you're just not going to do what, like cookies. And I have several of those weeks blocked off. I'm trying to find one. It's coming up right there. And you know what I plan to do that week? I plan to just work on my business and take time for all those things that I'm not doing otherwise. And slowing down a little bit is awesome. It's going to give me time. I slowed down a little bit recently and I found a huge improvement. So if you go back to the pre-sales things that I did way before, I used to do Google Forms. I found that Jot Forms worked a lot better for me because I slowed down and looked at it. And I did that this time, and holy cow, my life has just turned around a lot easier for me, which is awesome. It's made things a lot better. So, and there's other things I can continue to improve. So I'm looking forward to another week off to go ahead and do that. But when I do my calendar, I'm going to go a whole year at a time. Now, when I set things up, I've got to the point in my business where I've determined I love doing custom work. Custom work gets my name out there, keeps me going. It's what I enjoy, the creativity. But you know what? Sometimes it's fun to like do a pop-up where it's all your own design. Sometimes it's fun to do a holiday where it's just like a wacky holiday, like Shark Week. So why don't I start, or holidays? If I make more money at holidays and pop-ups, I need to put them on my calendar now. So I think in early October, I didn't write this down because I had something else going on. There's like National Taco Day. What a great time for a pop-up. Now I have one planned on here for pumpkin spice because they do a pumpkin spice flavor that led to a line outside my door last year. So I know I got to do that, right? I know I got to do a pumpkin spice pop-up. That's a big week and I'm going to make a lot of money and I'm not going to have to go anywhere. I'm just going to have to stand outside and socialize, and I love that. So that's on my calendar. I'm blocking my calendar right off the bat for holidays, for pop-ups, for what I want to do. I'm not going to take other custom work during my holiday time because it will make me insane. So, like, slow down. Tell yourself when you're going to take a break to improve your business. Tell yourself when you're going to focus on pop-ups and holidays, and do it at the beginning of the year so that as you're getting those orders, you're saying, as hard as it is to say no, nope, I'm going to focus on something that gives me more joy, if that's what you enjoy. More creativity, liberty, you can do whatever you want, more joy, more money, because there's something about a live with a cash cow or something. Let's think about those things from the very beginning. And it all comes down to starting with a calendar. So I also block out holiday prep weeks or when I'm going to start my pre-sales because those weeks are hard on me. So this week was hard on me because the children are home. And children are misbehaving a lot this summer. Let's just talk about that for a minute. Children are misbehaving a lot. There's going to be one behind me eventually in this life. I guarantee it. They haven't been sleeping, so I haven't been sleeping. So it's been a hard summer. So I realized that glad I slowed down my calendar for the summer because I needed it and I'm still feeling behind. And I have had some weeks blocked for pop-ups that I haven't done, pop-ups rather, because it's not right for the family. So I'm kind of glad for all that, but I'm glad I had this all blocked in here. And this has been where I started with. So I know my seasons. I know what I need to do now. It's really hard for me to say no. Like I have a hard time saying no, people. But sometimes it's good to slow down because it's going to make you feel better, and making me feel better and giving me more joy in my business is going to make me a little more efficient and a little more happy and more successful in the long run. So I'm stopping to try and look at some of the comments. Waiting kid cameo. Yes, I am. Anyway, my husband is a dream for putting the kids to bed tonight. He does it live in exactly 2 weeks, so it will be reversed. It'll be awesome. So that was my comment on calendars. Now, how do I organize my calendar is the next thing on. Don't laugh. Here's my outline written on what my kids then wrote on after the fact, but whatever. I know what my outline is. So for orders, for me in organizing my orders, I do this. I write down who it is, I write down how many, and then I write down all the details of what exactly it is that they wanted with their order. And I wrote down where the conversation came from. I wish they all came through email, but you know, people just continue to, who love me and know me, continue to use Facebook or IG. So I write down where they are so I can go back and find them later. If I had an electronic software, I would be able to move those pictures right in. Of the electronic softwares that I have gone out and looked at, I have seen Trello, I used in a past life, in a past job, has some benefits. That Cake Boss software looks very appealing. I think there's place for photos and everything in there, so you all can chime in on what you like in the comments, because some of you will have experience with that, and some of you will love the electronic stuff. I'm okay being old and doing the pen and paper. And then the one recently, and I saw this on here, was called Calendly. Wait, it syncs to your Google calendar. I know I have an Android phone and not an iPhone, so like I think that puts me in a different category. There's probably some great iPhone stuff out there. But I think there are some really, oh, I want to know what Frank thinks about Trello. I love some Trello. So I use those. I think there's electronic versions, but I love just using a calendar. The reason is, again, I set this bad boy out because I have written down exactly like what cookie cutters I want to use. So when I'm baking, this thing is in front of me, and I'm just running down and already checking off how many of the cookie cutters and what I've just baked. And I don't have to have an electronics in front of me. I can use my electronics to watch the girls do the gymnastics while I'm baking, and I don't have to look at anything else. Sorry, the girls are doing the gymnastics on the Olympics tonight, and I got to watch. All right. So that is how I do my organization. I just think that laying it all out, and then every week when I go ahead to my orders, I look ahead about a week and a half in advance, make sure I have everything there. I have a bucket next to my cutter organization, and I throw all the things in the bucket. It's a great bucket. Carry the bucket then to the baking day. The bucket then fills with water as soon as I am done, and all of them soak for a few minutes, and they're clean, and then the bucket goes back to the cutter room, cookie cutter room. So that is how I handle just using my orders, using my calendar, and having all the cookie cutters laid out. I counted my cookie cutters the other day. I'm at 480. My husband says I have a 500 limit. That's not going to happen. But they're organized in there. So the next thing I was going to touch on was cutter organization. It's a very popular question. Let me go into my notes section of my phone because I've been watching y'all. I have seen people say Shortly is a great cookie cutter app. I have seen Totes Scan, which is an app. I think someone said you can buy it on Amazon. And you get like the little scanny codes. You can scan and list everything that's in the bucket. Y'all, that's awesome. I hope you all have somebody in your life that does that. There's one called Home Contents, and there's one called Stock Room. So, Heather, I'm going to get back to that question in a minute. So I have bins, and all my bins are labeled, and they make sense in my head as to what's in each one of them. And that could be just because I remember things probably to a freakish degree. I can remember like numbers I calculated years ago, but that's just me in my brain. And so I can remember which cookie cutter is in which bin. But I have bins that make sense to my organizational pattern, and I can find everything. So I think a good label maker is a wonderful thing with my bins. And by the way, I stole my kid's toy bin. You know, the one with the racks, and then it has the different little bins that go across, and it's got like 4 bins. I stole my kid's toy bin and made it my cookie cutter bin. So it's nothing that too fancy. Some of you guys have beautiful stuff. Kind of jealous, but that's what I have room for, and that's what made sense. And once I got started, I didn't go backwards. But I do think having a cookie cutter organization, whether if I had the room, I'd have one of those boards with them all hung up, and that would be gorgeous too. So having an organized cookie cutter and knowing your cookie cutters and attaching that to your order, like you know exactly what you're going to do. I change my mind at the last minute, of course, y'all, because I see something new and exciting I want to try sometimes. But I have the plan always laid out here for each week, so I know how many I am doing. Heather Miracle asked, how much time do you set aside for the calendarization of your week? I set aside time each day, and that's a good question. I set aside time each day to be my office time. So my office time usually comes at the end of the day. So every time I get an order and I've put it in Square and send it out, I put it on here. If for some reason they don't pay, I just have to scratch it off, but that like rarely ever happens, right? So as soon as an order goes in Square, it goes on my calendar. I'm usually just trying to sit down one time a day and do that. Depends on the time of day where I'm at, but I'm getting better. And I think that is another really important thing is it used to be all day long, like ding, 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 something went off on the phone and I wanted to answer it right away, right? Setting boundaries, this group is great for that. I usually set aside about a half hour a day to just do work on the computer, sending the invoices, answering the emails, and doing it all at once. And I answer emergency things through the day. Somebody's coming to do a pickup, this, that. But the other stuff has to stay there. If I'm doing invoices for pre-sales, like we have pre-sale right now, some people wait to the end of the pre-sale, do it all at once. I do it once a night for like 20 minutes and I'm done, or 15 minutes. Let's see, I'm trying to go back, but I hope that helps. Like, I really do think you have to have office time each day. And just, it doesn't have to be much, but when you're focused, right? When you're focused and the office door is locked and the kid's not coming in, he is screaming to come in here right now. The door is locked. Then, like, that time works. You're going to be more efficient when you're dedicated to your time. So you just got to find that 15 or 20 minutes a day and do that. Don't let it dominate you, and fitting it in different places is going to make you lose and forget to write down your order. All right, there's a whole bunch of conversations going on that I'm not sure I'm up on, but let's see. Just trying to catch up. I'm so glad Frank is out there tonight. Let's see. Tell him he'll buy something with the cookie money when you get to 500 cookie cutters. Yeah. He has his own hobbies, so I really don't have to worry about that. So, Brittany said, do you have a calendar that has open spaces for each day? So I do my calendar in mentally by weeks. So I just put everything in 1 week. So if I know what's happening in that week, I put it in that week time span and then write what day they're going to pick up on, even if it's they're picking up on Friday, I might write it on the Wednesday thing. But I know that I bake on Monday for everything for the week. If you don't want to pick it up, if you want to pick it up next Monday, I'm actually making it the Monday before. I'm not baking multiple times through the week. Sorry, no, one time. And it might be one big long day, but I'm doing it just one time. So that is how I do my calendar. This calendar, by the way, is freakishly too small, and I don't know how I'm putting up with that. I would get a much bigger calendar if I had a chance, so I could maybe get them organized. So I don't know if that helps answer your question, Brittany, but I'm trying. If I get behind an office time, the world burns down. I remember that feeling from being employed in the engineering world, and it still feels the same today, so that's why you've got to control your own time. So I don't know if I'm making any sense, and I'm looking at things. So I've talked about the calendars, my orders, cutter organization, and there are some apps out there, like I said. I don't know how some of you have like 1,000 cutters and keep it organized, but I'm doing okay, 500. Another fun, off the mark website that I've never seen mentioned here, but that I use, and I have a small group of local other home bakers in the area who kind of do what I do. Because if you remember me, I make the freaky cookies that are like gluten-free and dairy-free and all that. So my other gluten-free buds, and I use a website called Recipal, like recipe, but a Recipal. You can put all your recipes in there, and it'll calculate all your, what do you call, oh, lack of sleep. What's that called? The thing on the food that tells you all the calories, your nutrition label. It'll calculate your nutrition label and all the information there, and it'll calculate like the price and the cost. So Recipal, if you want to throw that in there, Heather, that is a great thing. Somebody said, if you bake on Monday, what's the best way to keep your cookies fresh a week later? So for me, what a great lead in. Melissa, you just led into the next topic. You are the winner of nothing, but you're the winner in your heart. So what I do and what I would say on one of these weeks that you need to block off, if you are new and entering into this world, you need to know your cookies and you need to know your dough. So I know my cookies, and I do this probably every 4 months. I bake a batch and then I test them. And I don't mean eat them. That's fine. We're good with that. But I mean, I put them in in the heat seal bag, and I leave them out. I leave them out. I eat one that is 4 days old. I'll eat one a week old. I'll eat one that's 2 weeks old, 2.5 weeks old. I'm waiting to see where I find the point of like, that's not my quality anymore. So I know my cookies once uh, I'm reading Frank's question. I got distracted. So, like, I know how long it goes. I know how long I want to heat seal them for. I know that my cookies are probably 2 to 2.5 weeks, and then I don't like them. Um, I will, and I just did this with a different batch. I set some outside in the heat. I set some outside in the sun. I set them on top of my refrigerator. Forget about them. That one went 40 days. That was not a good cookie. I set them in different places so that I know what it tastes like in different places. So outside in the heat, I know they're fine. It helps me because I happen to ship. And so I know that shipping and heat, what that does to my cookies. So I need to know. But you need to experiment with your own cookies. You need to experiment, because I'm going to talk about this right next, and the next one is holidays. And what can you do to prepare for holidays? You need to know if you can make cookies in advance and freeze them, how freezing them affects them for you. What's the best way to freeze them? Do you have to individually seal them all? Can you put them in a big old Ziploc? Can you put them in a container? Some people in sugar cookie world, and I see this out there, they freeze their dough like all rolled out and stuff. Because I don't make an actual sugar cookie, I've tried freezing my dough, and it turned out gross. Yay, I figured something out. It turned out gross. It's a great experiment, and you got to invest in the experiment if you're going to know what you want to do. So to all those folks out there, if you're starting or if you don't know your product, test how long they last. So I know that mine on a pan in this temperature and in this heat, it is brutal here in the Carolinas today. I walked outside for 10 minutes and I had to take a shower when I came back in. So I have a lot of humidity in the house. Once my humidity hits a certain percent, I have to turn on a dehumidifier. My cookies are not going to get hard and nasty very fast this time of year. In the winter, I only have a couple days before I don't want them just setting on the pan. I make sure there's lids on them, or I make sure they're sealed. So it depends on the season, but I know that about myself now. So I know in the winter, I'm baking and making right away. In the summer, if I bake like I did a few days ago, I haven't gotten to making those yet. They're still fine. They're good. Humidity is my friend in that case. So let's see. Frank, tell us about a time you thought you had a disaster, but it worked your way out of it. Oh, like, was there a time I felt like hanging up my business for good? Yeah, there's been times. There's many a times I think that we think our cookies don't look right or aren't where you want them to be, and then the customer absolutely loves them and posts about them. I think there's plenty of times where we don't get feedback from our customers, and that's hard on me. I like hearing like did they like them or not. So a follow-up email is a fabulous thing. So in your little time that you set aside each day for your business, I have one day every like 3 weeks that I send out a follow-up email to all the customers that I gave cookies to the previous 3 weeks. Side note, I don't do it every week. I don't have time. I lose my mind. So like every 3 weeks I do that. To me, that's fine. They're still very on it and they're still very excited. That works for me. So disasters, there's plenty of times where I have baked wrong. I haven't liked it, and you just have to put the grit down and rebake the cookies. And then I've learned that the ones I thought were burnt really did taste okay. And I ended up being able to like sell them for a pop-up or something like that. So sometimes I am harder on myself than what my customer would be. So that is often good to remember. I think some of my disasters are just emails that went sideways and things like that. But having grace and telling your customers what's going on has always been good for me. I'm a one-woman show. I made this mistake. Sorry I didn't get back to you on that email, and I dropped the ball, and they've come back as customers in the future. So random notes. How do you organize all of the packaging items? I do have a room with a lot of shelves. I have all the different boxes that I used, all my packaging equipment, but it's one huge set of wire shelves and everything's on it. And in the closet in that room is like the post office threw up with all my priority mailboxes that are in there. But I do take the time and invest in the equipment I need. So that is actually one of the points I'll jump to, but do invest in the equipment you need. I invest in, the nice rack, and I happen to have a beautiful area to put one rack, but it's in the corner of like a spare bedroom. I don't have a ton of room. The next thing we want to invest in is a lovely Murphy bed so that I could actually like walk around in that room. But we have space for the packaging, and it is all organized on wire rack, you know, whether it's holiday gift boxes, the ones we hand out with our custom ones, whether it's our shipping equipment, whether it's the fluff and stuff, as I call it, or the tissue paper, or good gracious, I just got sucked into the bow land and I had to go buy the thing from Joann's with all bow things to put all my ribbon on now. One of the best investments I have made to making my life more efficient and more organized is a large baking rack. I bought the half-sized baking rack when I got started. I can't figure out where I need to be on the camera. Sorry. The half-size baking rack that holds 20 half sheet pans. I have gone to the full-sized one that holds 40 half sheet pans now. I love it. There are some cookies that my chocolate cookies need to sit a couple days before I can bag them, and then that way they're just stacked up and I don't have to worry about moving things around. And there are some people who can't afford that space, but if you can, it is having the baker's rack, I think, takes a lot of anxiety out of my world. I feel like I can do more at one time because I'm not having to put everything away just to get it back out. Mine is literally like in the corner of the dining room. It's got a nice rack over it. I'm a home baker, right? But I have it stuffed away so it's not facing the world with the sheet covering it, and it's always zipped up when it needs to be. But it's just, it's part of our life now, and it's part of our dining room. So, and yes, space in a small business, it's hard to find the right space, but investing in the key pieces of equipment will be awesome. For me, it's been the large baking rack. I also have a larger mixer. Somebody's going to ask me what it is and what size, and I don't know. I know I can make 6 or 7 dozen. I usually do a batch of 6 dozen dough at one time. I can do probably 7 or 8, but the way I have to calculate the numbers, it's a lot easier just to do 6 for me. How many dozen do I make a week? During the holidays, I can do like 60 a week. But when it's not the holidays, I don't do that many. Just depends on what I'm making during the week. I never bake less than 6 dozen at a time because it's easiest to make 6 dozen in the dough. I'm always baking 6 dozen at a time. Next week, I have 2 dozen to do. Am I going to make 2 dozen worth of dough? No. I'll make 6 dozen worth of dough. What am I going to do with the other 4 dozen? That's a great question. But I know that my cookies freeze really, really well. So I'm going to think of a cookie that I know is going to be consumed right away when I give it to a customer. Now, if I think a customer is going to take a cookie and then freeze it for themselves, I will never freeze it first. There's no double freezing for me. So I know all the back to school cookies are going to be eaten right away. So what I'll probably do next week is bake a whole bunch of back to school cookies with the extra 4 dozen and slap it in the freezer. The amount of time difference, honestly, for me to make 2 dozen versus 4 dozen, or 2 dozen versus 6 dozen, is probably 15 minutes difference. So why would I do that for 2 dozen and then like later do another 2 dozen? It doesn't make sense. I would rather do it, add on the extra 15 minutes and get 6 dozen done, and then hey, the other week I'm ahead. How often do I cover? I'm going to go back. How soon can you cover the cookies after you ice on the baker's rack? I have 2 small kids. It's hard to keep them away from the rack. I have just a section open for the fan to go for however long I put the fan on the cookies, like an hour, and then it's zipped up right away for me, and they stay in there overnight, no lid. Mine don't have a lid overnight. They just sit in the rack, and the zipper keeps them pretty fresh when it's zipped up on the rack. So all of that said, that's going to lead into how I do holidays. I pre-bake cookies for holidays that I know are going to be consumed right away, not frozen. I make cookies by the dozen for my gluten-free, dairy-free people who need to keep them in their freezer because they don't have any other choices and that's their treat. So I never make those in advance. So like I'm an allergy person, right? So my cookies I think like that. But around Christmas, if you're gonna get cookies, you're just gonna eat the cookies. So I make I know I can fit 20 dozen DIY kits in my in-laws freezer. So I make 20 dozen DIY kits for Christmas in advance. I stick them in my in-laws freezer until I need them. So that's one of the ways I get ahead for the holidays. So when I get a little closer to Christmas, because it's a little too far right now, every time I do that thing where I have like, I only needed 1 dozen cookies, but I'm going to make 6 dozen in the dough, I'm making the others and packing it in the freezer and sending it somewhere to be in advance for a holiday. That is how I manage the holidays a little bit easier, because I hate DIY kits. I'm afraid to admit that. So those are the ones I want to bake and get out of my hair the first and fastest. But I love having stuff that comes out of the freezer that's ready to go. And so, of course, right above wherever my freezer is, I have a note keeping track of everything that I put in the freezer so that I know. But what I would say for holidays, anything you can do to bake in advance is a really efficient way to keep yourself going. It allows, I'm still planning all that time for my holiday baking, but hey, if I just realized I saved myself 3 hours because it's in the freezer over there, wow, what I can do with that 3 hours just to keep ahead or keep going or add a few more things in that I wasn't planning on doing, and delighting a few people who are last minute Nellies and forgot to order from me, and then I'll have a few extras. I tend to close my pre-orders early enough so I can bake all these things. I say to all you people out there, close your pre-orders when it's convenient for you, and then make extra. I make 5 to 10% extra on everything that I got ordered for my pre-sale, and I've always sold out with that, just for going on pre-sale journey, but that's how I know how much to bake typically. Am I freezing them iced or plain? Yes. I am freezing them both iced and plain sometimes. Usually just plain if it's for a holiday, because then I don't want to batch it all at one time. Sometimes I'll freeze things already iced in advance. One of the ways I do that, woo, side note, look, there's a squirrel. If I make like an order that I absolutely love and I have extra dough, of course I'm making extra cookies. I'm putting them in there and I'm pulling them out for my next pop-up sale so that somebody can come to the pop-up sale who wants pumpkin spice, but they see a llama or a sloth or a rainbow that they really want. And hey, I happen to have 3 of those extra from that other order like a month ago, and they love it. So that is another way I'm trying to stay on top and not put the pressure on me when I do a pop-up. I can just open the freezer and be like, I forgot I had those 15 random cookies in there. Somebody's going to love that. So always, for me, find your comfort spot and figure out if you can bake ahead on everything you do to where it's efficient. So again, for me, 6 dozen is my number, whatever it is. It's ending in a multiple of 6 dozen when I'm baking that week. Why do I hate DIY kits? I don't know. I also freeze the icing in advance too. Let's talk about freezing icing. If you haven't done this yet, it's one of the most exciting things I've ever learned in my business. I don't know. I hate filling the DIY icing bags. I think that's what I hate. So I learned not altogether that long ago that you can freeze the icing and you can freeze it in the piping bag. So this is great not only for DIY kits, but for every day. Like I have extra icing and I throw it in there. It's so fun to be able to go in and like pull out something like, oh crap, that gingerbread man needs a red nose. Oh, I have some red already made in the freezer. I don't make enough stuff. And so that's fun for me to have the icing already made. So if you haven't experimented with icing in your freezer, again, I experimented with it and I tried it to make sure I know what I'm comfortable with, and that's what I'm doing to help me every day, little efficiencies. I'm trying to read some questions. How do you keep up with what you have pre-baked in your freezer? I have, it's usually in the back of a calendar on a page. My husband put up a really, really lovely dry erase board above the freezer that I should use. I don't always use it. I don't know why I don't always use it, but it's somewhere or down, and it might be in a couple different places at the same time, but that's how I keep up. running out of freezer space. I know somebody said that. Yes, I love that I have an extra freezer, and I have an extra freezer because I have allergy kids, and I have to like buy the world's freakiest food for my allergy kids. And I used to have to bake everything for my allergy kids. I still have to bake a lot for my allergy kids. So I fill the freezer with a lot of food, and now a lot of cookies. We split that. Frank, how do you differentiate for yourself from competitors in your area? Well, mine is truly based on, it's a different style cookie, so it's a little bit healthier cookie, and it's not a typical sugar cookie. It's great for the allergy people. I also do all natural coloring. And so I am friends with a lot of sugar cookie people in the area. We love to share. We love to help each other out. And it doesn't feel like they're always competitors, but there's plenty of room for all of us. We have noticed this summer that there's nobody left to take any orders in the area, it feels like. We don't know who to refer to. So we're in an area where we're blessed that we all have a lot of business. I take inspiration from like just watching people in this group. I don't scroll the Instagram very much. I just don't have time, but I love looking at certain people that I know every once in a while, kind of looking at what they're doing and look at the colors they have and what they're into. I do feel like sometimes with my custom orders, I get, tied into exactly what they want, and I don't love that. So I love the holidays, and I love the pop-ups for my own creativity to do whatever I want. How many hours a week do I bake and decorate when I have 60 dozen? I don't. But I do have policy in my house that I sleep 8 hours a night. So it is in those 8 hours. So my kids are at school, so obviously they're at school. That is when I'm doing a lot of stuff. I do things in the morning. They're happiest in the morning. So I find that my children, when they're happiest, that's when I'm doing my most work. I do spend time, just me, like I know I'm working this amount and then I'm taking an hour off to spend specific time with them because then they seem really, really happy that we had some time together, and then they're cool. And then I do more work so they know that mom works and then plays and works and then plays and works and plays. I do a lot of people will ask. I do a lot of my office hours in car pickup line after when we're waiting for school to get out. So that's a great time for activity or scrolling Instagram. So which is why I haven't done any this summer. I haven't scrolled much. So that is how I tackle holidays and trying to get ahead. So to recap, test your cookies. Test what works for you. See what you can freeze. See what icing freezes, see how cookies freeze, baked, not baked, iced, not iced. I think there's some ways to look at how where do you want to invest your time? Do you want to invest in a little bit bigger baking rack? Do you want a little bit bigger mixer? And the payoff is great. And it seems like such an investment. That's where do you want to go with your business? If you're happy in the hobby baker land, like great. You don't have to do any of the things I'm saying, but I think just looking at your calendar, then just decide when you want to do your things, your little pop-ups, your what do you call them, flash sales if you don't do pop-ups, flash sales, whatever you want, lingo you want to use, whatever week you want to experiment with something, whatever holidays you want to do, put it on your calendar and plan for it and find joy in doing that. So let's see. I'm trying to see what else was on my list. That was a lot of the things that I talked about that were on my list for that. One of the fun little efficiency things, if y'all haven't done this, I don't know. This, I think, is one of the most fun little things. I can't show you my kitchen because I can't walk around from this computer. Did you have these grippy pads? I know this is hilarious, but these little, you can buy, I think they're supposed to go in like the bottom of your drawers to make things not slide around. I love these. My whole countertop where I mix icing has these all laid out. Because then I don't have to hold my bowl while I mix. I'm mixing with one hand and adding icing. I'm not holding the bowl because the grippy pad holds the bowls. Anyway, this has been great for just my life in general, making icing. I do have a portion of my counter space set aside just for icing. So the box with all of the 7,000 colors that are there is in one section, and I just have my stack of bowls and clean them, put them back, and we just use them to mix, clean, and put back. So one little section of my countertop is dedicated to my icing. It's got these little things on top, so everybody else knows that they don't put their food in my area. Don't touch my stuff. So that's kind of how I've marked off my section of the kitchen. And then I'm trying to think of what else. And I'm looking back at any questions. A prop freezer, hilarious. So I do with the kids. My kids are like 7, so I don't know how you do this with littler kids. Good kudos to you. I have enjoyed doing this with the age they are right now because they do enjoy participating in the cookie making. They put stickers and labels on things for me and help me out and stuff like that. So that's kind of fun. But I'm trying to think of what other. I also am of the attitude, what am I trying to say? You know the saying, my mother used to say this, anything worth doing is worth doing right. I do agree with that. I do try to do everything right, make sure it's done. I also have a little theory in my world, anything worth doing is worth doing now. I try not to let things stack up. Like if it's worth doing, I go ahead and just get it done right away. So it's mentally done, it's physically done, and I am moving on to the next thing and letting it go. I try not to let my brain get weighed down by a list that's too long. I just go ahead and take care of the list when I'm doing that. I am on the go a lot and I move a lot during the course of a day, but I rest well at night and I sit down at night. So I do try, like I said before, I work mornings when they get home, mornings and in between, and then in the evenings or when they're at school, it's just basically school time. I find that as I've learned these tricks, baking ahead or freezing the icing or just knowing how to batch things just a little bit more, it has made things more efficient. I would love more people to chime in what makes your world more efficient, because I think that's what the whole idea of doing this is. But ultimately, taking time to invest in your business is the key for me. So having a week where I know I am updating my website, I am going back and listening to all the podcasts on this show, on this group from the Miracle Sisters, all those types of things, really important to do. And then you hear on there and go set up Google My Business, go set up look at your SEO, go look at those things that you're learning right away and have that week where you know you're going to make that list to do that. What else? What other questions or what other things that you do, or what other things? Somebody says, how long is icing good in the fridge? I don't think I've ever put icing in the fridge, but in the freezer, I mean, I've left it in there for a few weeks to a month or more. Probably about a month. I don't know how much more that I would ever leave them in there, but that's one of the questions. I'm looking. Do you use a rack with covers on the pans? How do you get it to fit? No, I don't use I can't get my covers on the pans in the rack. Some people said they cut off the tabs at the ends of the covers. Everything that needs a cover on it gets stacked on a table for the night, and then it's in the rack during the day while I'm working on them. How do I decide how many orders I can take in a given week? That's a great question. I'm sorry I missed that. You have to determine your own work-life balance. I was really inspired by Brady from the Frosted Cookery, and I follow her. And a while ago, she said, listen, I'm putting a limit on it. And she could take 1 million orders, and she can charge for it too. But she says, I'm limiting it to 10 dozen a week, she said, because I want to do more pop-ups and holidays and teach classes and all those things. And I remember thinking, that's awesome. She fills her calendar, and that's awesome. I am trying to dial back to that. I don't know that I have a set number of dozen per week, but what I'm looking at with every order is how does it match the rest of the orders in the week. I don't want to do more than probably 4 different designs in a week. The other week, I got 3 orders for dogs in the same week. And this summer I was saying I'm only doing 2 orders a week or something like that. Well, I took all 3 orders for the dogs because it was all the same, plus another random little one. because it's not so much to me about the number of dozens as how much design and how many times I'm going to mix a different color icing. So I look at it that way. So to me, it's how many different designs do I have to do in a week? I'm comfortable at like 3 to 4 designs. For a comfortable week, I will squeeze more in when I feel like I can't say no. So what are, yes, I did say listen to Heather Miracle. Then it says, oh, I want to go back. What was the, I did say I schedule 3 to 4 months. I didn't get into this part about orders. I take all my money up front, first of all. Y'all, if you've been on this, you should know that by now, on this group. But I do take all my money up front because that's more efficient. I don't want to go around trying to track down people for the rest of their money or their deposit. I think that sounds like a major consumption of time. So if I were to find a time waster, I would think that would be it. I have never once had anyone not pay. I will do it for like massive weddings that are booking a year in advance. Sure, that's no big deal. You're like the one massive wedding I have way out there. Sure, I'll do that for you. But otherwise, people pay all up front no matter what. I book in 3 to 4 month increments. And I made a mistake with this recently, and I'll tell you that. Or, Frank, I've made a mistake, and I'll tell you how I got out of that one. But I do 3 to 4 months at a time because typically you're really set, and COVID has caused a little consternation with that, but everything's getting back a little bit more stable. So 3 to 4 months at a time, you pay me in advance. I will do that block of time. I'm not going to take orders for next year, and I'm not going to take your payment right now because things are too apt to change. So I'll put you on my calendar if you really want to, and I'll stay in touch. But I'm really, not going to take your payment that far in advance. I will do anything for 3 to 4 months at a time. I made a mistake. I put the other day that I was booked for the summer because I wanted people to start emailing me or stop emailing me because I was just getting a ton of emails. And I'm like, I'm booked through September. Stop. I later that day listened to the podcast about fear of missing out. Should have listened to that before I posted that. Because as soon as I did that, I was getting orders for the rest of the year. And I ended up getting a lot of emails in one day, which is what I was trying not to do. But I did tell people who didn't even have a theme. I'm like, I will pencil you in. And I made a list on a different page in the calendar. I'm like, here's the list of all the people that want something that's way far out there. And I'm not ready. We'll get back to you shortly. But on September 1st, I will start looking at everything through the end of the year and nailing that down and taking the payment then, because then by then they should have their theme, they should have their plan. We can get the design, we can get the money. But I try to do that in terms of in a rational amount of time. There's people out there who book like a year ahead. I'm not sure I could do that, but 3 to 4 months to me is comfortable. They should have a plan. We can get a design. We can get your money. And I don't have to think about you again until the week pops up and I go, oh, hey, it's the week for whatever that is. I don't want to do, I'm just not interested in, like I said, following up on deposits half now and half later. It's more work than it needs to be for me as a one-person job. How far in advance do I close my pre-sales? Like at least 2 weeks before the holiday. I ship 1 week before the holiday. So I'm actually working on making myself more efficient at the holidays and not doing like a whole week of planning just for the shipping and then doing it all again the next week. We're trying to do it all during the 1 week where I know I'm shipping out and having everything ready really in advance for holiday. Like I said, I make enough extra from the pre-sales that people can come back and buy them from me and be last minute Nellies and get in at the last minute. How do you try and keep decorating per dozen at a certain time frame for efficiency? I should, but then I get carried away. How long on average does it take for you to do 2 dozen? I have a 2 dozen minimum. If that helps with efficiency, I definitely have a 2 dozen minimum. And I know that it's 15 minutes to make a batch of 6 dozen dough. I know that I have to leave it in the fridge for however long so I can bake it. Baking 6 dozen takes me 43 minutes. Then I know that, from there, however long the decorating is, should be within a reasonable amount of time of, maybe a couple hours, but I know whatever the design is could be way all over the mark and charge appropriately for that. I do I tier pricing or one price per dozen? You feel like it's a time saver. I look at every order individually and kind of calculate how many colors you have, how much writing do you have, how many not character, but how many like things are going to require the projector to be painful for, and that just adds up. And then there's the ever present, and I'm not even joking because we all have it. If they ask for Paw Patrol or LOL girls, it's $600 a dozen. And I'm not afraid. I wrote that to somebody one time because I'm not going to do those. So there's some that you just go, there's no way I'm going to be efficient enough to make it worth my time. And that's Paw Patrol and LOL girls. I happen in. So I know not to take some of those orders, and I'm okay with that. I don't know. There's no efficiency enough in me to accomplish those. I'm trying, I don't know. I hope I've made sense. I've been talking a lot. How do you cook dinner for your family while cooking all day? In the morning, I ask my husband what he wants, so we get the plan out, and we have a good rotation of what we like to eat. That is highly limited when you can't have dairy or gluten, so we have a pretty good set of food that we know we can eat, and that's on our menu. And I like eating out occasionally. So there you go. What are some promotional campaigns or sales on cookies do you feature when you find this is beneficial to do so? I think like doing the fear of missing out is just a really lovely royal concept that is fantastic. So the flash sale, limited quantities of whatever you're doing seems to work out. I just try to find something like a little bonkers off the wall that's super fun. I would go look at the weird days of the year. It's National Ice Cream Day. And have ice cream cookies or a DIY kit that looks like ice cream cookies with sprinkles. The National Taco Day I mentioned because some brilliant person did the DIY kit that looks like tacos that has like green coconut and yellow sprinkles that look like cheese and red sprinkles that look like tacos. My goodness, that's brilliant. Brilliant, whoever came up with that. So like there are some fun ideas there. I would do right now, if I had been smart, I would have done Olympic cookies and done like gymnastics cookies for all the gymnastics girls in the area. I would have been hit. Didn't play ahead enough for that one. I forgot that this was the year of the Olympics and it moved. So I missed the boat on this one. That's a shame. Christmas in July would be awesome. I mean, again, if there's a certain flavor, I've done ones where I'm like, it's National Turtle Day. We do one for National Turtle Day. And on the note of making cookies that are trademark themed, how do you handle those? I don't copyright images. If you don't know much about my husband, he's Mr. Internet Security, Mr. Safety, Mr. Law-abiding citizen. So I will run everything by him. We do stuff inspired by, but we will not do a copyrighted image to the best of our ability. We've done some for friends because it's friends, but we try to just do stuff inspired by. Who do I have this week? Oh, the principal of the school wants Frozen. Well, I got to do it because it's the principal of the school, but it's snowflakes and pretty dresses, but there's no Elsa or Anna going on in there. So that type of thing. Have I talked enough? Heather, do you have anything else I need to talk about? Did I make you proud, Heather? Did I make you proud? I hope that helps, but I really do think that taking time in your calendar, what makes you the most money, like holidays or pop-ups, put those in there. And if that brings you joy, put those in there. If you need to slow down and just spend a day cruising through this group and finding things to do that. But definitely test your cookies. I see that in a lot of the random cook groups. Do our cookies freeze? one person's might, but you need to check, you need to test yours. But then use the freezer and use that ability to plan ahead or work ahead for the holidays, and just make it easier on yourself so you can do a little bit of everything and not be killing yourself. I sleep 8 hours a night. No, I should sleep 8 hours a night if my children sleep, which they haven't been. If anybody has a solution for that, feel free to come by. Uh, that's about it. I just feel like there's some great electronic things out there. You don't have to do it. You have to do what's right for you, whatever works for you. But I used to work in a job where I would go into meetings, y'all, and it was my job to get these people to come to some sort of conclusion, come up with some ideas. And nobody's shooting at any targets when you walk in that room. They're all just stalled. And it's my job to put up the target, and you need to shoot at it. And some days I walk into these meetings with the stupidest suggestion on purpose, so they would start shooting at something. So if all I'm saying is today I'm giving you some targets, just start shooting at them. And if you say that girl was really, really wrong, but I know that I could do this instead, I have accomplished what I've come onto this thing for. Just start shooting at some targets. Try to find a way to utilize your space. Dream of that bigger mixer where you can always, just work a little bit ahead. Work a little bit ahead that same week and just say, hey, I have extras for sale. It'll be awesome. You'll be that person that people start coming to for that. Benadryl. We've tried that. It's not been working lately, but so targets to just aim for something and try to set something to improve, and don't be afraid to take a week off, and don't be afraid to take a week off to not do anything either, because I think all of us are working 24/7 every week of the year, and we're not giving ourselves time to rest. If you don't rest yourself, you're not going to be efficient. I loved watching Is There a Podcast Greg in Hawaii, because I know he's on vacation. I know he's having a wonderful time, and he's still just enjoying his research for the future. And that was fantastic to watch. Like, he's so enthusiastic about what he does and so passionate about what he does that he was able to make it a love of his vacation too. And he was resting and rejuvenating and bringing back wonderful energy to go again. I wish that for all of us. I have felt burnt out. I have been there. And don't do it. I'm trying to slow down this summer to do that. And you know what? I had a cancellation this morning, and it was like the happiest moment of my life. Because I was like, yay, there's more time. There's more time to do something I want to do, or dream up something for the next one, or fit in somebody that I might wanted to do something. I don't know what I'm going to do at that time yet, but I'm excited about it. So I wish that for all of you too. And it's like 9 o'clock, and I don't know what's going on in the women's gymnastics because I haven't really been paying attention, but I'm going to go find out. And vodka for the parents. Also a good suggestion for how to deal with kids who aren't sleeping. But my twins, I have twins, they're 7, and I love them, and I love the Miracle Twins, and y'all are great. I'm happy to answer questions or share, and this has just been, it's fun for me to talk. So in 2 weeks, my husband's getting on here, so y'all show up and give him some love as he talks to you about your passwords and how to be secure. And we will see y'all then from Pink Turtle Land. Thanks. Good night, y'all.